there were a group of older boys walking past this bus stop, and one of them noticed the 12-year-old girl and turned to their friends and said, "Look." And the girl could tell what was coming.
See the new girl vibe, she in her stride. She goes side to side, she goes tap, 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 tap.
Hey guys, it's your girl Miss Annie J, and today I just wanted to share a story with you about a 12-year-old girl who suffered from really serious confidence issues. And so let me just start from the beginning. There was this 12-year-old girl, and we're going to call her Larissa. So Larissa, on her way home from school as normal, she caught the bus, sat downstairs, had her Walkman in her ears, and was just looking out the window as the bus continued on its journey towards her home. The bus proceeded to stop at another one of its normal bus stops along her route, and as it stopped, there were a group of older boys who were sat at that bus stop, and one of them noticed Larissa, turned to his friend and said, "Look at her face." Then the whole group of boys began to point at her and laugh. They even approached the bus windows, pressed their faces on it, banging on the windows, were pointing at her, were laughing at her, just mocking and verbally abusing this 12-year-old girl. The 12-year-old just sat looking straight ahead because she could see and hear the commotion at a glance, and she knew what was happening. And as she looked straight ahead, tears began to well up in her eyes because she was so used to being the laughing stock. The bus finally started to make its way towards her home, and she sat there feeling miserable, upset, and desperately wanting to burst into tears. She was so fed up because this was a life that she had become accustomed to. When she got off the bus and was on her road, she began to cry profusely. As soon as she got home, she went up to her room, changed her clothes, then came back downstairs, found the medicine cupboard that she knew her mum kept, and she took an overdose of medication, hoping that she would never wake up again to a life that she felt was constantly a nightmare. Miraculously, she fell into a deep sleep and only woke up with a headache. Now you must be wondering, who is this Larissa? Like, what is this about? So the story of this 12-year-old girl is the story of me. And the reason why I wanted to share this snippet of my life is to encourage people out there who have suffered from a life of low self-confidence. As I mentioned in my story, being Larissa, I guess now I can say I was at a bus stop and I was just on my way home. I was so used to being tormented by other young people, younger, older, kids alike. I had been born with cleft lip and palate. If you don't know what it is, please go and Google it. On that particular day, I had been subjected to shame and embarrassment at school. And then on my way home from school, I was subjected to further shame and embarrassment from kids who did not even go to the school that I went to. I was on the bus on my way home, and these kids found a way to come over to the bus and to poke fun and to make a mockery, make me feel shame for looking the way I looked. And because I had become used to this sort of treatment throughout my whole childhood, that particular day, I had just had enough. I thought, I do not look good. I do not look pretty. I'm never going to be accepted. Why was I born looking this way? Why did it have to be me? Why have I got to be subjected to all of this pain and torture, the insults and the mockery and the name calling? I had just had enough. So when I went home, the escape that I felt I needed at that time as a 12-year-old was to end my life. So I tried. I found the medicine cupboard, and yes, I took an overdose because I felt like this is the only way that I am going to escape what I'm going through and find some sort of solace and peace. No child, no 12-year-old or younger or older should ever feel in their life that they need to exit the earth. That should not ever happen. It took me years to build up my self-confidence and to reverse the labels that other people had placed on my life. The most impressionable years of my life. Imagine just growing up constantly hearing you're not attractive, you're ugly, you look like you were in a car accident. People have asked and assumed so many different things like, oh, what happened? How did you get that scar? But the only difference is children are less forgiving. They're more likely to poke fun. When I was born, I had half a nostril missing. And so going through healthcare, surgery, and things like that is how I even look the way I look today. And yet, even though I have what I believe is a very attractive and pretty face, may I just add, growing up as a child, I did not see it that way. I thought that I was so different. I thought I would never be accepted by anybody. But there has been a beauty in going through this sort of tribulation because I began to accept myself. I stopped thinking about what people thought of me, their opinions on my appearance. This is my body and I am stuck in this body until the day that I leave the earth. And so I can either live my life feeling regret and shame in the body that belongs to me, or I can embrace it, be confident with it, and wear it well. And that is what I decided to do. When I asked God why I went through such a traumatic childhood, and seeing where I have arrived at now, I realized that the pain I endured in my past became the foundation of my purpose in life. I am no one's victim, but I am God's instrument. I will always endeavor to encourage other individuals who may feel that they were dealt a seriously unlucky set of cards. Don't visualize your disadvantage as a setback, because what I endured later, even with the condition that I deal with, that you guys hear me talk about all the time, PMDD, all of it combined landed me in my calling for my life. I didn't see it when I was going through the pain and I wanted to end my life, when I had no confidence, when I struggled to love myself, when I struggled to even like myself. I couldn't see the purpose then. But looking back in hindsight, I now see the purpose, because character-wise, I have become so much stronger and I have become so determined to encourage others, because knowing how I felt with a lack of confidence, born with a deformity, suffering from a condition that affects my mental health every month on a cyclical basis, has built in me a formidable level of resilience. I started to look out for myself because I said I cannot live my life feeling unworthy. God put me here for a reason, and I am going to live my life in the calling to which God has called me. Everything I've been through has just been a part of that journey. So if you're struggling, if you are finding difficulty in living life, you don't have that confidence, it's time to turn things around. And it starts with you acting in faith. I believed it until I believed it. Because trust me, when I started to try and believe it, I was very much doubting it. I carried on anyway, as if I believed it, until I started to believe it. And that is what faith is. There are so many things in my life I never thought I would have been able to do until I did them. I was scared to drive until I became a driver. I felt completely clueless in building a website, and yet I was able to build and design my own website. There are so many things that we might doubt ourselves about, that we think, I'm not going to be able to do this. I'm not going to be able to achieve this. No one can criticize us more than we criticize ourselves. So people can call me names. People can tell me I look like this, that, and the third. It only has any type of impact or effect if I start to believe those words. I do not believe what other people think about me if it does not align with how God thinks of me, with how I think of myself. You can forget about it, because I've done that for a long time. And thankfully in my adult life, I have been able to work hard enough on the way I see myself, on taking God's word and applying it to my life, reminding myself constantly as to what God says about me and what he thinks about me. And I act on the premise of his word. And so what people say, what they think, has no bearing on me. If you have been stuck in a loop of low self-confidence, it is never too late to turn things around. You can start at any point that you want to. It doesn't matter where you are in life or what your circumstances verses are saying, when you decide that I want things to turn around for my good, you just need to act in faith and begin taking the necessary steps. Never let anybody stop you. If you are determined, you go with God. If it's just you and God, you have everyone that you need, because greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world. If I have Christ on my side, I don't need nobody else. When David went out on that field to battle Goliath, he went with his slingshot and himself. The Philistines were cheering for their big hefty Goliath mountain giant soldier to come and fight the battle for them, and they thought they had it in the bag. But little did they know that the one that they could not see, who was backing David, was greater significantly than Goliath. When you have God on your side, and when you mentally are on your side, you are capable of achieving anything. Stop doubting yourself if you have been. It is time to live in your capabilities and to make things happen. I should have started my YouTube channel in 2014, guys, but you know what stopped me? Low self-confidence. I was worried about how I would look on camera and what people might think. Imagine. And so for 6 years, I stunted my own movement. But once I begun, I have never looked back, because I don't care any longer what people think. We keep on moving forward and we achieve the things that others might think we are not capable of, and our lives are going to look very different. It's time to turn your trauma into triumph and your pain into purpose. Walk with God, put him first, trust him, trust yourself.
It's a bright new day. You're here with your girl, Miss Annie J. I'm gonna give them what they want, cause I came to slay, and nothing's ever gonna take my joy away. I'm about that life.